Thank you for joining us. Today is May 1, and May 1 is celebrated all over the world as Workers' Day. So it is time to celebrate workers. And how have they fared in Nigeria?
Perhaps it's also a good time to look at some of the things that have brought us thus far as labor activities in Nigeria is concerned. Because just last year, the figures undulated a lot. The figures of those who are supposedly employed, or in fact, the new term I got just about a year ago is the employed, there's the underemployed,
And there's the unemployed.
Is that underemployed? I was like, okay, so what exactly does that mean?
Well, the pandemic had a lot to do with that. There are many who became underemployed because they lost their means of livelihood and they had to now look for other means of just putting food on the table.
How about those
which was working below their capacity.
How about those who are overemployed? There is no data for that.
Who are those who are overemployed? I think we need to ask the experts what overemployment
because
means.
40 hours a week means a little less than 6 hours a day.
And isn't that enough?
So, but there are those who work like 12 hours.
Well, if the buck stops at your table, you better be ready to work 10 hours. After everybody is gone, then you start dealing with the files. I mean, bank MDs and things, they're in their offices till 8, 9 at night. Work weekends and public holidays.
As you said, that's like...
Anyway.
Maybe you are also even overemployed. The guests. The guest list.
I think I'm going to carry a placard very soon. Yes. To look at Labor Day with us this morning. By the way, we are also part of Labor.
Just so you know.
I'm a worker.
Yes.
We have the president of the Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management, Mr. Remy Dairo. He's with us here in Lagos. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. You see what you've caused?
He's just greedy.
Joining us from our studio in Abuja is Hawa Mustafa, who's climate change coordinator of Nigeria Labour Congress. Good morning, Hawa.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Let me start with you. You are NLC. Okay, why a special day to celebrate the worker?
Thank you very much. Very interesting question. We have 365 days on the average in 1 year. Of these 365 days, the worker, in fact, there are some workers that work all through the year. Generally, workers work. If some are not working, others are on holidays. So for 365 days, workers are on the job. We set aside just 1 day of these 365 days to remember that there are people who are working and who by their labor, by their sleeplessness, by their hard work, by the effort that they put in, a lot of things are possible. We are in this studio today because somebody somewhere is handing a camera. Somebody somewhere has opened the gate. Somebody somewhere has cleaned offices, has done this or done that. And so there are people, somebody somewhere is doing the security work. There's a driver, a lot. And of course, you there sitting there, you are also workers. A lot is happening to make this possible. A lot happens to make everything possible in every sector, every day. The persons that make this happen are workers. And so to take 1 day in the whole year to remember that the importance, the value of these persons, and to recognize and appreciate them, I think it's just okay, it's just perfect.
Okay, Mr. Dairo, we are celebrating, in quotes, workers. But do you think that the Nigerian worker, specifically, has anything to celebrate? Minimum wage at 30,000 naira. I I don't know about his benefits, stuff like that. Does he get any social net? You know, let's talk about all those things that should make a worker happy. Is the Nigerian worker happy?
I think two perspectives to that. We have the private workers, we have the public workers.
Okay.
In the private sector, there is a keen, interest in those areas. Some have keen interest in, employment contracts, health, taking care of, welfare and all that. Some. Coming to the public sector, it's just you get a job. Yeah, there are those things on paper. But generally, the question is Nigerian workers really happy? The minimum wage, just like you've said, some states have not been able to pay. Some states are even saying they can't even pay. The federal government is still,
And yet, what is the value of that money? Can't buy much. A bag of rice is 28,000 naira.
Exactly. So if in fact, if you divide, what we do in productivity is to divide the number of days or number of hours by the amount to collect at the end of the month. So it's less than 1 naira. Less than 1 naira.
Please.
So
No. Wait.
I mean, you can do the maths. So 30,000 divided by 8 hours in a day times 5 days. Do the calculation and then take it to hour. You discover that the worth of that it's mega. And we are even fighting on that. We are fighting on saying, okay, let them be able to pay. And then some states say they can't even do that. So that's by the side. Talking about welfare, health, security. It's only only selected secretariats that they have, probably federal government secretariats or state government that have vehicles to take their workers home. A lot of workers find their route. You find their route to find back home. And then you talk about house rent, talk about children's school fees. The same things that other people face, the same challenge is what workers also face, when they get to go to market or go to school and all that. So you see, we are not yet there. We are not yet there. And that is why there's a lot of brain drain. A lot of people are finding their path, finding a way out of the country to say, okay, where can I find, appropriate, if I give so much labor, how much can I get in return?
Commensurate.
Yeah. And you discover that when you get to the other side of the world, you work per hour.
Yeah.
And then you can calculate, if I do 10 hours, then I have this. And it's sure.
Yes.
And then if I sleep today, as I'm not going anywhere today, I've lost
zero income.
I know I can get. But here, you are for 30 days, so to say.
Well, on that.
So there's issue on that,
On that, some would also say the quantum of income in those other climes. Yeah. Can we compare it also to the quantum of taxation that they also have to face? But we'll come to that. Okay. Let me go back to Madam Mustafa. In the light of what you've heard Mr. Dairo say, is there really anything worth celebrating for you?
Well, again, celebration for the worker to celebrate his or her existence as a worker, as a person, is important. However, in the context of Nigeria, there's really nothing exciting to celebrate. What we celebrate is in the remembrance of what we give to the society, what we proudly and energetically, wholeheartedly give to the society, give to the world, give to make everything go successfully, give to make life worth living. But are we properly compensated for what we give?
That's a big question right there, but we'll take that further when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Well, it's still sunrise. Mr. Dairo, let's look at some of the nitty-gritties now. Clearly, people are not very, very happy. As you have also said, you have even made it worse by telling us that the worker gets how much per hour?
I mean, it's less than 1 naira.
Less than 1 naira per hour. You know, I saw a picture sometime, I think on Twitter in the course of the week, and someone posted 5 naira. Said, what can this thing buy now? Now, on the one hand is the purchasing power. On the other hand is the minimum wage. We know from data available to us from governments that the purchasing power is decreasing, government expenditure is rising, and the minimum wage is as it is. So if we are to raise issues in labor, what are those things that you would say are crucial issues for us to address as far as labor is concerned?
All right, so the first thing is welfare, because motivation of the workers is very important. The workers motivated, they're going to do the work very well. And part of the motivation is to get appropriate tools. There's something called capital, capital machinery, capital tools to be able to be more productive. And today's productivity has gone beyond, oh, I'm just in the office, or I pack some files, or I do my work, and then I'm gone. Today's work has moved, beyond the physical, and because of pandemic, even before then and after, now we use more of data, use internet, work from home, and all that. But the question is, where are the tools? Are the employers of labor providing the tools for productivity? So, go and work from home, get results from home. But where's the laptop? Oh, if I have laptop, who's buying data for me? Oh, okay. And it's okay. I don't know. I don't care how you get it. Just get it done.
Well, the argument if an employer, for instance, might put up is, if you're working from home, you're no longer spending money on transportation. So
it's not my fault. In the labor law, it is not the fault of the worker. Whatever thing that happens the situation that happens where you are not at work. For a time like COVID, it's not the worker's fault. In the labor law, you have to pay the worker and make appropriate thing that must be ready for the worker to work well. That is the labor law. So if I'm not at work, it's not that I don't want to be at work. You are the one that asked me not to come to work, or probably because of my health and all of that. And because of that, what I'm saying here is provide appropriate tools. And sometimes tools are apps. Apps. Okay. Can you install the apps on our phone? Can we get a bit of training online to be able to do the work? Because sometimes what we do physically, in the African perspective, working hard, it's a old way of productivity. Oh, I see you sweating. Oh, you are sweating. Oh, well done. No, you don't need to sweat anymore. Technology has taken care of that. So I'm saying the employers of labor also must be able to provide the tools, appropriate tools. Number 3, it's money. Salary.
Talking about money,
some workers will tell you, oh, I work because of my passion. Some will say, forget about it. I need to pay bills. So even if you are passionate about what you are doing, you need to pay bills. So the employers of labor must be able to say, okay, what pay would take them home? I mean, there's a way labor doesn't say that
their pay doesn't take them home.
Take home doesn't take them home.
Take home doesn't take them home. So the question, we need to do research. We need to ask questions. Okay, you as a driver, you as a security man, you as a manager, what exact pay would take you home? What exact take home pay? I mean, these are things that must take into consideration to be able to make the worker excited, to be able to get more productive at work. And let me also quickly warn, sometimes when there's no measurement, employers of labor are also complaining. Oh, you are working from home. I'm not even seeing what you are doing. Oh, you are working in the office. Some people even come to work from Monday to Friday, and we cannot really quantify their level of productivity because there's no measurement. So measurement is key. And why do you get measurement? You must have a goal. We must have, what to be done on Monday. What exactly are we looking for this week? What are we looking at this month? Then we can measure that to what the workers is.
All right. Well, just to give us this information that, of course, many of us are not unaware that the platform is happening today, and the platform is talking about some national issues. So some of our platforms right now may be transiting to that. Just so you are aware. So the program is still on. You can still get us on the terrestrial platforms. You wanted to ask a question.
Okay. Mrs. Mustafa, the issue of pay is very important because of a lack of all the social things that we have spoken about. Your health is not taken care of. a lot of other things are not taken care of, like in other climes. So what you have in your hand, what is called the take-home pay, now assumes a gigantic importance here. So, a few short years ago, how many years ago? 30,000 naira was approved as the minimum wage.
2019.
Good. Is labor not always, doesn't it seem that labor is playing catch up all the time? Because as soon as that money is approved, the prices all go up in the market, and there are also other issues contributing. What is the value of that take-home pay right now with the dollar at 470 naira? So are we going to see fresh agitations? One tatashe is 100 naira in the market. One dorica of rice, I hear, is about 800 naira or something. No, 1,002 or so. So what does the worker eat? He goes to the same market, but he goes with his 30,000 naira.
This is part of the dilemma of the Nigerian worker. That 30,000 naira we're even talking about, there are so many states that are not paying that 30,000 naira as we speak right now. Less than half of the states are paying the 30,000 naira. Even those that are paying the 30,000 naira, some of them are not even paying it consistently. Now, what does 30,000 naira mean in the life of a worker who puts in about 20 days of work in a month? That 30,000 naira amounts to barely 1,500 naira per day, less than that, in fact. The average, what is the average cost of transportation? What does he eat? Even let's just take the worker alone as an individual person, without even the other members of the family, an average of, say, 3 children. Let's not even go into the standard average of 4. 3 children, probably 2 parents. And let us stop it at that point. With less than 1,500 naira, you are expected to have lunch, you are expected to have dinner, you are expected to have breakfast. You are expected to transport yourself at least between your workplace and your house. You are expected to pay rent at the end of the month. You are expected, in case of health emergency, take your child or your wife or your parents or yourself to the hospital. There are no other facilities that help the worker to manage in terms of maybe something like a social protection to help the worker even when the actual wage is not enough. This actual wage we call take home does not even take the worker to the bus stop. It is supposed to be a take home pay, but it barely takes you to the bus stop. So what are you left with? The worker is left hanging even before the worker gets home. So there is a lot of frustration in the land. And part of the frustration is even what we see, manifesting itself in our youth. Because these youth are children of workers. And when you come home with certain demands and you see that your parents are in a sort of dire situation, they have not been paid salary for months, or the salary is coming in trickles, and you have demands, even as a young child, as a young female or a young male, certain demands are not met. Your parents cannot even get to work, not to talk about you, the youth, even getting a job. And so these are some of the precarious situations of the Nigerian worker. And then I heard somebody say earlier around, what does the worker need? The worker needs decent work. It is not just enough for you to say, I have a place where I go to work, and at the end of the month, I earn something. No, it is more important to value, the quality of work that you are doing. To also see, to also measure the quality of that job and the daily demands of that worker. Is it decent work? Decent work will mean that your wage is decent. Whether it is 18,000 naira or 30,000 naira, even 30,000 naira, neighbor just had to. We just had to be lenient. We just had to compromise so much to arrive at 30,000 naira. But on the basis of the research that we carried out, if a worker, the average worker in Nigeria, is expected to live a minimal decent life, you will require at least 65,000 naira per month to take care of your transport, to take care of a decent accommodation, not just the kinds of places, the kinds of ghettos that majority of our workers are living in, and the kinds of facilities in the environment where they are living in, the kinds of vehicles, the kinds of transportation that workers use to take to the office. Before you even get to the office, you are exhausted. First of all, you are hanging by the bus stop for about an hour or two, and you rush into the vehicle where you are standing for another 30 to 40 minutes or 1 hour before you get to your workplace. You're already drained even before you get to work because of the means of transport. Don't forget, you have already slept in a house that is just a house, just a roof that probably is leaking, that you have barely slept very well because of discomfort. And then you wake up through this. Then eventually you get to the workplace where there is the workplace environment is also not quite decent. There are so many workplaces where even basic facilities, basic convenience, facilities for convenience is not even available. There is no water. There is nothing to take care of even the women's, especially the young female workers, daily or monthly, practical needs. Not to talk about a woman probably a young lady who is pregnant, who needs some kind of rest, who eventually puts to bed and needs a kind of crutch around the office to give her peace of mind. The basic facilities that enable the worker to feel comfortable, to feel dignified as a person that is giving in so much to the society. It's not there. So it goes even beyond the minimum wage. It's a lot of things put together. Where is social protection? We talk about, for instance, National Health Insurance Scheme. It is very, very limited. There are a lot of, in fact, about 70% of health needs are not covered by that insurance, by that. What happens to housing? We talk about federal mortgage, the federal housing fund. More than 80% of workers are unable to access that fund. More than 80% of workers are unable to even send their children to decent schools based on their income. So what is there for the worker? It's not just about the minimum wage. And the minimum wage cannot even take care of all of this. So in the absence of that aside, the government is also supposed, and even employers, they're expected to put in some other buffers, in the form of social protection to help, strengthen or at least, to help strengthen the use of that minimum wage. So one, you don't have the minimum wage because it is not a living minimum wage. They call it minimum wage, but it's not a living minimum wage because it is unable to take you through the month. Secondly, you don't have basic facilities that considers you as a worker to be able to enjoy health, education, transport, housing. These are basic needs that the worker needs.
One moment.
To help him boost his morale.
Yeah, just one moment, madam. One of the things that a number of people might also be asking is, yes, Labour is always pushing for the welfare of workers, short of using the word laborers, But the question some might also be asking is, aside from asking or pushing for, pay increase, wage increase, welfare, and all of that, are there other innovative strategies that Labour, your organization, can come up with? You heard Mr. Darrow say here the other time that, yes, the worker, the organizations, the businesses have the responsibility of making available tools for the people to work. It's one thing to have the tools, it's another thing altogether to have the temerity to be able to use the tools. There are workers, there are employers who would say that there are people who are not employable, yet they are on some jobs. So are there things that Labour is doing to improve not just the welfare, but the capacity of the workers in the various organizations? The organizations have their responsibility, but is there any other responsibility that Labour can adduce and say, let's take this up also so that our fight for workers' welfare can be more worthwhile?
Well, on the part of labor, specifically, we have what we call education and training for our workers. And the part of the curriculum of the education and training is, to kind of psychologically stimulate the worker to understand the world of work and even beyond, and also to appreciate what is expected of the worker within the context of the work environment and even beyond. And at the same time, we also stimulate the worker, or we educate the worker to also understand how to go into proper collective bargaining agreements with the employer. And what is the content of this collective bargaining agreement is something that goes beyond just the monetary wage. It is also about training and retraining. It is also about capacity building. And these are some of the things that we ensure that we are able to build into a collective bargaining agreement. So yes, indeed, the workers or the trade unions just don't fight. What we see as from the outside is just the fight for minimum wage. But beyond that, we go beyond that to also fight for other facilities. That is also the responsibility, and we merge responsibilities and obligations. We do understand that the employer has a responsibility and obligations as much as the worker also has responsibilities and obligations. And with respect to the tools, if the employer provides the tools, who provides the skill, the training that is required for the effective use of the tool? It's not necessary. It's not the worker. My minimum wage is not for me to train myself to work for you.
Yeah.
My minimum wage is expected.
We'll come to that, because what I asked is not about the skill, but the capacity of the worker to be able to deliver. But we'll get to that, more of that, when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. We'll come back to you, Mrs. Mustafa, but let me bring you the same question, Mr. Dairo, about the capacity. You are into business innovation, so we'll come back to the responsibility of the organizations. But the capacity of the workers, you began by talking about the fact that we have at least three variations. Let's say three. You said two, but there are three variations. One are, the public servants, that's, civil servants who work in the federal and state and local government ministries and all. Then there are private businesses, private employees in private organizations. And then there are those who are self-employed. Those ones, labor can't fight for them. Okay? But talking about the capacity, not just the skills now, but the capacity of the people who deliver the services. Do you think there is a responsibility for the unions? Well, the place of trainings is there, and the place of the skills that they will get from the trainings is there, but the capacity of the individuals that are going to go for the training themselves. Do you think there is any responsibility for the unions?
I would slightly disagree with Madam in Abuja on that point that, it is the responsibility of the organization to provide training. I don't need to, train myself on the tools. Now, let me give you the truth, or the facts here is, your competition as a worker today is global. It is no more your neighbor. It is no more your state or where you are, residing. Now, the same job can be given to somebody in India, in America, in UK, if the job is available online. So if you tell me, this is what I do, this is your JD, and I put it online, who can do this for me? You will get this. You will get other people who have built their personal capacity to take up that job.
That already happens with the freelance.
It's happening. Platforms. It's happening. Yeah. So if you don't develop yourself personally, you are personally digging your grave at work, so to say.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to develop yourself. In fact, sometimes organization will not provide the training. You train yourself. Your capacity at work is what you build in. It is not what they train you externally, so to say, because sometimes those training, I've done some training for federal government and state government before at the public sector, and I discovered that those trainings are paparazzi. They are like, oh, we have training, we are moving out of the office, at least we have a place to go and rest. We have a place to go, and of course, there's going to be some subvention for them for coming around. Sometimes those trainings are just for the training's sake, The capacity is individual. I train you, you might not check the training. The training might be on paper. The training might be a certificate given to you. But the question now is, after the training, what happens? So it is your responsibility to now upskill yourself. If you have a particular skill before that brought you in, that skill cannot take you to the next level. That skill cannot give you promotion. And that's why I like the private sector. They ask you, can you do this? You are not doing it, you are out. But in the public sector, federal character, oh no, we're not allowed. Let's let people say hang around.
Are you saying that the conditions of getting into the organizations is no longer viable? People have to have minimum first degrees and all of that? Because
in the public sector, there are a lot of factors that bring you in. This federal character thing. Yeah. Okay. No, we need some people from this particular area of the country. They are not here. And then some people say, I'm sitting down here representing my zone or representing my state. So you cannot demote or remove me. I mean, it happens. Yeah. So these are the factors that reduces our productivity as a nation. So what I'm saying is, you need to upskill yourself. Upskill. Number two, you need to upgrade yourself. Mm-hmm. Upgrade your skill. You need to cross-skill. There's something called cross-skill. Cross-skilling is when you know how to do more than what you are doing. Then I can do this, I do this, I'm a broadcaster, I write book, I also have I'm trying to look for something very practical here. That I do more than what I'm expected to do. Yeah. That increases your capacity as a person. There's something called plus-skill. Plus skill is a skill that is not seen. It's a plus to the skill. It's the attitude to work. Sometimes you can be trained. Sometimes they can give you all the tools, and you have a wrong attitude to work. And you're like, they are working up there. I don't know the one chopping the money. Or guy they work, bamboo they work. They chop. So that attitude can never move work. It can never be productive. In sense.
Mrs. Mustafa. This question has come in from Festus Akimboyoa. He said, what are the unions doing with the money they collect from their members? Are they helping their members to cushion the hardship they face?
Yeah, I would like to answer that question. But before then, I think it's very important to engage Mr. Remy on the issue of capacity. You see, the part of the crisis of the world that we are living in today is this issue about competition. This thing about the craze for competition, the drive towards towards getting the best, both coming from the employers and the employees. Once upon a time, there are institutions that had their own training centers meant for their workers. The banks, for instance, will have a training center, even at the point of employment. You will first of all, once you have the basic criteria for employment, you are given a special training to fit into the specific demands of that workplace. Even in journalism, there is the Journalist Institute. It is not the worker that develops this institute. It is the demand of the economy. And that is why I say the employer, the government, is responsible basically for setting up institutions that will give the worker that space for capacity building. But when you leave it as a fit for all, fight for all, competition, go and train yourself. If you are not ready, somebody else is ready. This is the very reason why we have crisis in this world. This is the very reason why we have crisis even in employment in Nigeria, where some state governors believe that, look, I can just wake up one morning and sack 3,000 workers because I don't like your faces or because I don't want what you're doing. And then at the end of the day, of course, there are numerous other people standing outside there looking for these jobs. I can clear you and bring in others to take the job. This is wrong. This is not going to take the world. This is not going to make the world progressive. These are part of the crisis, the major crisis that we're having in this country today, and even in the world at large, particularly with respect to the youth. Particularly with respect to the youth, and that even beyond the world of work, these kinds of crises, they resonate in our social world, and in our cultural world. In our everyday world, outside the workplace, we see the impact of this kind of crisis of competition. And so for me, capacity is basically what the worker requires, the basic capacity of the worker is himself as a person. You have your hands, you have your legs, you have your eyes, you have your nose, and all those basic facilities, those basic things that make you a human being ready to work. Now, some of these workers also come with additional skill and capacity with respect to education. Some of them are pharmacists, some are teachers, some have been trained as engineers, and so on and so forth. This is part of what you have come in with. Now, what we are saying is that if there is an additional need, it is the responsibility of the of the employer and also policy makers to ensure that there is an enabling environment that stimulates the interest of the worker, that helps the worker to improve, to have access. To have access. And access is not just to say that physically that information is there, physically or whatever, you can access. Access is also about being able, affordability. And affordability involves a lot of things. It's also about issues of gender.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Mustafa. Are you therefore saying, because in the civil service, there are sometimes promotion exams. Are you therefore saying that it is the duty of the employer to prepare that candidate for the promotion exam that he's going to sit?
So now you have created a promotion exam. That is a facility to enable the worker to prepare to say that, look, this promotion exam is about what? It's about moving you forward in your career. You need now to study, you need now to work yourself, you need now to prepare yourself. Now, part of the enabling support that the government or the employer would be able to give the worker is that, for instance, if I need to study in preparation for the exam, perhaps you can give me an hour off work, or even if I'm within work, perhaps you provide me access to library, or at least let there be electricity within the workplace to help me to study. So these are some of those enablers. And we cannot say that, no, the worker, because you need to pass exam, so you provide everything for yourself, the electricity, the time, and everything. No, but that there is the need for support.
Mustafa,
the worker realizes that, yes, I need to improve
I have to cut you short. We've run completely out of time, and that, you know, is the nature of live television. We just have to round up now. We couldn't even take your closing statements. Thank you very much for coming. Mrs. Hawa Mustafa, Climate Change Coordinator, Nigeria Labour Congress, as well as Mr. Remi Dairo, President, Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment. Do stay with us.